and a gute Woche. Welcome to our program. Tonight is day 15. That means we are halfway. After we finish this class, we'll have finished 15 out of 30 classes, which means we're at the point of no return, which means it's, you know what the point of no return it means? It means when it's easier to go all the way to the end than it is to go back. So if learning the Rebbe's letters every night has changed your way of thinking, it's probably just better to continue rather than to go back the way you were before. The truth is, you can never go back the way you were before because Torah has that effect. Like it says in Perek of Tanya, it's mozain. You metabolize it, becomes part of your flesh and blood. It changes your thinking forever. And speaking of Torah, gifts of Torah, that's why we're learning Igros. And then gifts of tzedakah. Gifts of tzedakah is my Keilah Chabad Pushka app. My sound wasn't on. Okay, here we go. Okay. And Matzah Shabbos, there's a minhag to drink hot water, but I'm going to drink cold celery because that's what helps me give a good shiur. You'll be the judge if it was a good shiur. Okay, shall we? Tonight's letter is the longest letter of the 30 letters in 30 days. By far, longest letter. I don't know how long it's going to take us. I usually try to keep the shiur to 30 minutes. I don't know if that's going to work out, but let's go. I'm not going to drag it out, but I'm not going to go crazy fast either. Baruch Hashem, Daled Tishrei, Tavshin Tez Zayin, Brooklyn. Okay, so you see the date, first of all, is Daled Tishrei. I think we're up to like Tavis. You know that these letters go chronologically. Maybe I should talk about that for a second. When the Rebbe asked that the Igros project should be undertaken, the Rebbe was pushing with like urgency that they should put out volumes and volumes and volumes, just keep on pushing it out. So at the very beginning, Rabbi Levin from the library, who had all the archives, he asked the Rebbe, should we assemble the letters according to subject, or should we do it chronologically? And the Rebbe answered, whatever will come out faster. Rabbi Levin said, then chronological will come out faster. And that's why the Igros are chronological. Did you ever know that? Now you do. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, is anyone out there? Say hi in the, oh, Yocheved is there. I know her. She lives in Boca. Okay, good Woche, Rabbi. So looking forward to your class on Monday night. Oh, yeah, Monday night, that's a different thing. That's a course, yeah. How to answer any question, which a lot of how to answer any question is based on Igros, on the methodology that I learned from the Igros. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to put in a plug for my course, but yeah, if you want to take my 3-part course Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, this week coming up on how to answer any question, go to soulwords.org/how. That's soulwords.org/how. I'll put it in the chat. soulwords.org/how. That's a special course. Okay. Yeah, so this letter, you might have noticed, we're up to Tavis in the letters that we're doing right now. This goes back to Tishrei, and the only reason it's out of order is because when we were assembling the letters, I said, if there's a really long letter, then let's just make sure it's not on a Thursday night when we have to do 2 letters, because then it's going to be really, really long. And I guess this is just how it ended up, that this, like I told you, this is by far the longest letter that we're doing. Okay. Baruch Hashem Daled Tishrei, Tavshin Tez Zayin, Brooklyn, Shalom Avracha. Af ki mizman lezman, migias elai, yedias oidoisoi. Noim li lekabel ato michtove. Although I get reports from time to time about you, I guess from third parties, it's very pleasing to, I was pleased to receive your letter. The Rebbe is always pushing people to write more and more and more. You've noticed that trend? Yeah. Af ki muven she'eneni sva rotzin mimatzav haruach hanishkaf bai, v'nefilas ruche al asher lefi daite in roya pri ba mole ba ubavadose besecheche hanoyar. However, I must say that I'm not satisfied with the spirit reflected in it, namely your discouragement, because in your view, you don't see results from your efforts in your work among the youth. So the Rebbe says, it was very pleasing to receive a letter from you. However, I was disappointed about the attitude that you're conveying in the letter, namely that you are feeling discouraged about your work with the youth. I do not know the nature of this person's work with the youth. I don't know if he's a classroom teacher or something else. I don't even know where he is in the world. That I was writing to him in Hebrew, which does not necessarily mean he lives in Eretz Yisrael at all. Hebrew was a common language for the Rebbe's communications to all types of people. So I really don't know. All I know is this person works with youth. I know that he works with youth who either come from irreligious backgrounds or perhaps even, sadly enough, maybe they come from religious homes, but there's a lot of secular influence in the environment around them. That's what I know from having read the letter. Okay, but at any rate, this person is discouraged right now. He feels like his work is not producing any results. Okay. V'af ki muven asher svias rotzin gemura shel askon ubar poil eineno mivia teitza'is toives b'yesir. Now, although it's known that complete satisfaction from an asken, it's an activist or a person who is active in the, a community worker, complete satisfaction isn't good because it brings out non-productive results. Ki alula hi lahachlish as hameretz asher bai. It can dilute his merits, his alacrity, his drive. Can make you kind of complacent. Kevin shayetzer mefatehu leimer, because his Yetzer Hara will come and tell him. If the guy feels completely satisfied with his work, the Yetzer Hara will come and tell him, Asisa dayecho v'yitzlachto. You did enough. You did your part. You were successful. V'ata yavayu achedem v'yamshichu. Let others come now and continue. You're done. All right. So before I continue, I just want to make a comment. The Rebbe's attitude toward being satisfied with one's work is a fairly famous position. So famous indeed, and here comes my cynicism, that I think it's been widely misunderstood even in Chabad. I think there is a characterization of the Rebbe that the Rebbe was so demanding to the point of never acknowledging people's success. I think that, well, first of all, I know that it's a misrepresentation, as this letter itself is, evidence, Exhibit A of our case. But here's the thing. I've heard this very, very often. Like internally in Chabad circles, like from our, not just boys and girls, but even adults saying, it's so stressful to be a Lubavitcher because the Rebbe always pushed and the Rebbe was never satisfied and the Rebbe was always telling people, you didn't do enough. And there's truth to that, but that's a very oversimplified description that causes, I've seen that it causes real damage because it causes people to actually feel bad, be discouraged, and other things. I don't even want to, go into it. Like the Rebbe says, let's not speak about a painful matter at length. So I just want to show you Exhibit A, as I call it. Let's look at the Rebbe's own words, the Rebbe's own recorded communication with a real living human being who is in this situation himself, and how the Rebbe guided this person, and the nuanced position that the Rebbe himself articulates. Because, I've heard people say, the Rebbe that they put out to the world is smiling and encouraging and everything's beautiful. But then the Rebbe that we know in Lubavitch was always pushing people. He was never happy. Both of those are misrepresentations. But here's the good news. If you want an accurate picture of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he made himself available to us. We can get a real impression of the Rebbe from the Rebbe himself. You don't have to listen to anyone else's characterization of the Rebbe, anyone else's representation of the Rebbe, not from a dinner video that's supposed to inspire people, not from your mashpia, even, God forbid for me to say it, but I think your mashpia, if he's worth his salt, will agree with this. If you want to know the Rebbe, look in the Rebbe's Sichos, Maimorim, and Igros, and meet the Rebbe the way the Rebbe expresses himself. Okay, off my soapbox. At any rate, this person is feeling discouraged. I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm working with the youth, and it's not really producing any results. The Rebbe says like this. Okay, on one hand, it's known that complete satisfaction for an asken, for an activist, is not a good thing, because we know it leads to complacency. The Yetzer Hara will have a field day with that and come and say to him, oh, you're so good. You already did your job. You can retire. Okay, so we know that's no good. Harei gam kotza sheni. But on the other hand, the opposite extreme, hainu regesh shel yush, a feeling of despondency, vafilu shel nefilas ruach chazaka, or even strong discouragement. Its outcomes are negative. And in fact, more problematic than the other extreme. We have two extremes. One extreme is complete self-satisfaction. I've done a great job. Pat me on the back. I'm good. I'm retired. Okay, that's obviously no good. The other extreme is, I'm awful, I can't get anything done, I'm quitting. Okay, both of those are bad. We know that. Okay. Or to be more like the Rebbe, I'll say both of those are not good. Says the Rebbe, but of the two, the person who feels awful about himself and feels defeated and feels unproductive, that's actually, neither of them are good, but of the two, that one is worse. It's even worse than being satisfied with yourself. Okay? So, I just want you to observe there's a nuanced position. There is place for being satisfied. You just shouldn't be so satisfied that you check out and say, I'm done. And B, I want you to notice that of the two undesirable extremes, the more dangerous of the two is the person who feels like, I've never accomplished anything. I've never done anything. I'm a big loser. Much more dangerous. The Rebbe explains it. The Rebbe explains. Ki harifyein hanigram al yada gadol yeser, because how do my translators translate this? The weakening, that's literal. The weakening it causes is greater than the first extreme. Yeah, rifyein is more than that. It's like, it's an unraveling. It's a downward spiral. It's a process of surrendering to self-defeat. And in either case, either when a person feels totally satisfied that I've done everything that I need to do and I'm all done, or when a person feels I've never accomplished anything and I'm a loser, the unraveling that occurs from the second one is far more egregious. Okay, so let's talk about the actual matter at hand. The youth that you sunk so much work into, you've invested so much work into. And nevertheless, they're swept away by a storm of secularism. I'm kind of guessing that this person is working with youth in Eretz Yisrael just because that term is more indicative of the secular culture in Eretz Yisrael, but not necessarily. I'm saying that with a big maybe. Okay. Hine, chazaka l'ta'amula she'ena chezeres reikum. We have a chazaka, an established rule, that no effort will be for naught. Af shalei tomid matzlicha ba'isa hamida she'aleha shayafim umekavim. Although it's possible you won't always be as successful to the measure that you had hoped for, that you were trying for, and that you hoped for. Okay, but you will always have some success, some measure of success if you work hard. It may not be the level that you had set out for, but there's always going to be some success. So don't tell me that you've accomplished nothing. It's not possible. If the guy's writing, I worked so hard with these kids, I worked so hard and nothing. Then I was saying, okay, great. You told me you worked hard with them. Then I know it's not nothing. It may not be as much as what you were aiming for, but there's no way it's nothing if you truly worked hard with them. Okay. Furthermore, asher lapamim tchufeis beyeser haytoitzois nirais rak la'achar zman mekama v'kama sibais. Many times the results are delayed for many reasons. Many reasons, says the Rebbe. Remember, this is youth. He's working with youth. The effect is time release, many times, or many times for many reasons. Lapamim rabes, many times. Misachar ad shmistader ha-mechunach v'ha-mushba b'chai mishpacha. The effect is delayed until the student grows up and has their own family. I cannot tell you how true I've seen this to be. So many real life cases that I know of people who, let's say they went to a camp, or they went to a Hebrew school, or even they used to go to a shul, and they were not so religious, or maybe not religious at all. A shliach worked with them, tried to inspire them. You didn't really see much, and maybe not even when they left home and they went off to college. They got a job. They established themselves in a career, and then they get married, and then they have their own kids. And all of a sudden, they start taking life seriously. And we see this over and over and over again. And all of a sudden, they gravitate back to that chinuch that they tasted when they were young. Where am I going to go now? Where am I going to bring my kids? Where am I going to become involved? Which path am I going to follow? Yeah, let me find someone who reminds me of that rabbi who used to run that camp that I went to when I was a kid. So many times. So the Rebbe says it right here, that when you're working with youth, it often does not have its effect until the kid grows up and is establishing his own family. Talking about decades of patience. Okay. Sha'oz eina bal shinuim kol kach. Says the Rebbe, at that point, they're more settled. When a person is establishing their own family, at that point, they're an adult, they're more settled. Maybe becheshbon as kol overall matzave behave. They think about their past, they think about their present. V'oz gam hatkufa shekibel ashpa mi'ish pleni b'makim pleni. And they remember, oh yeah, I remember when I was taught by that guy in that place. Nichnasis becheshbon zeh. They enter that into the account. Yechela lahachriya es kaf hamaznayim letzada toiv. And that memory, so poetic. I love the visual here. That memory comes and tips the balance toward the side of good. Meaning they're looking at their life, they're raising their own family now, and they're trying to decide where they should go and what kinds of things they should be involved in. And they remember, oh yeah, I remember that nice guy. We used to go on Shabbos. They had that kids program. Yeah, I remember I won the Best Davener Award. You know what? I want something like that for my kids. Boom. And then the balance tips in the right direction. There you go. Beautiful description. Okay, and we see this so many times. Okay, l'chaim. Furthermore, ubehagdim ha mesuper al Rabbeinu Akiva. I'm going to tell you something about, I want to first tell you something about Rabbi Akiva, our rabbi, Rabbi Akiva. Who was Rabbi Akiva? Echad Migdele Tanaim. He was one of the great sages of the Mishnah. Ma'amudei HaTorah Shebal Peh Shalanu. He was one of the pillars of our oral tradition. Right, Moshe Rabbeinu himself saw Rabbi Akiva and said, why wasn't Torah given through him? Shemesaprim Chazal Eidaisai. Our sages tell us about Rabbi Akiva. Asher Abayim Shana Hiya Malabed Mashpia Mechanich V'Nasi. For 40 years, think about this, the Rebbe is talking to a frustrated teacher who doesn't feel like he's affecting his, I don't know if they're his students, but the people he's trying to, the kids he's trying to affect. Think about Rabbi Akiva. For 40 years, remember he had 3 40-year periods in his life. 40 years of being an illiterate shepherd, 40 years of learning, and then 40 years. He lived 120 years total, like Moshe Rabbeinu. Then 40 years of being the foremost teacher of Klal Yisrael. So he spent 40 years being a teacher and a leader. He had 24,000 students. And when we say 24,000 students, we don't just mean guys who are officially on the attendance sheet and they're drinking coffee half the day and they, leave the siddur on top of the Gemara to make it look like they're learning. No. Talmidim be'erkoi. We're talking about students who are on the level of being Rebbe Akiva's students. That means to say, Shelefi matzav yidiyaseihem va'efnam. This is a very interesting way of describing it. On their level of knowledge, Rav mashpir shelahem tzarich hayaliyes b'mamade ish keRebbe Akiva. They needed a teacher like Rebbe Akiva. They were on such a level, they could only have a teacher of that caliber. Interesting way to describe it. Okay, so they weren't chopped liver. These are serious guys. But for a reason. May the merciful protect us. They all died for a reason. Yeah. And because of that, there was a crisis that the Torah was liable to be forgotten. It was in danger of being forgotten. The Hamid Rebbe Akiva, Chamisha Talmidim. Rebbe Akiva stood up 5 new students. Vehem Hachziro Eskola Torah Shebal Peh. They were the ones who restored the entire oral tradition. Vehefitzuha, and they disseminated it B'Yisrael among the Jewish people. Bizman Nom, in their time of B'Deiram, in their generation. V'nimsra doer achar doer ad shabo elenu levanenu v'levnevanenu ad elam, and they managed that the oral tradition that they disseminated should reach us and our children and our children's children forever. Okay, so that's the story. Rabbi Akiva, he had 24,000 students who were of a very high caliber. They all died tragically. And Torah was in danger of being forgotten. And Rabbi Akiva went and he established 5 new star pupils, and they are the ones who are responsible for the oral tradition surviving to this day and for all time. Obviously, Torah is not just a storybook. And the Rebbe is saying this is not just about Chumash, Torah Shebechsav, but Gemara. Story of Rabbi Akiva is a story in Gemara. But these, the Agadata is not just stories. Ki im Torah kamashma loshen hera. But Torah means hera, instruction. So the stories are instructions. Asher kol inyan sheba malamed hu umeida derech l'chol echad v'achas. Everything in Torah is instructive for every individual. Not just everything in Torah is instructive. Everything in Torah is instructive for every individual. I love it. I love it. Especially this story. Who Meifis Chai is a living example. Asher al ha'adam lanatzal kishreinesav b'chol ha'afshari, that everyone should use out his talents as much as possible. Ve'ezet teifa shalei tifgebei ba'vedas ezu. And then a Rishai should tifoil olav ezen nemichas ruach. And no matter what happens to him, it should not discourage him. Right? Rabbi Akiva could have said, woe is me, my life's work. I mean, in addition, I'm sure, to the personal feeling of loss, the grief of, people died. But also, his whole purpose was to be a teacher of Torah. And now, everyone he taught Torah to is gone, and Torah is about to be forgotten. And so basically, his whole life's work was wasted. But Rabbi Akiva could have checked out. But no, he didn't. He went right back and rebuilt from scratch. So you should not be discouraged even in such a situation like Rabbi Akiva's situation, which is pretty drastic. That the work of many years was lost to naught. Or at least the way it appears from fleshly eyes. Obviously, it wasn't really lost, but from the fleshly eyes, certainly that's how it appears. All of lahamshich b'meretz, but you shouldn't feel that way. Rather, you have to continue with merits, with drive, with motivation, alacrity, with simcha, with joy, in your holy work. And in the end, you will certainly succeed. Even if many efforts did not bear fruit, talking quantitatively, 24,000 students, a small number, again, 5 students, may succeed extraordinarily, making up for all the deficiency. Yeah, right. It fills up all the lack, and it satisfies the desire, for all of the toil that you put in. Like the saying of our sages based on the pasuk. It's a pasuk from Kehalis. In the morning you should sow your seed, but in the evening don't let your hand rest. Meaning, when should you sow? In the morning or in the evening? Yes. Sow in the morning. Definitely get to work right away sowing your seeds, planting. But then even after you plant it in the morning, don't say, okay, now we're done. No, plant in the evening as well. Because you don't know which one of the two is going to prosper. So Rabbi Akiva had 2 phases of his leadership. It ended up that it was the second phase that ended up being prosperous. Someone's asking in the chat, what page are we on? What do you mean, what page are we on? Oh, in the PDF? I'm on page 4 in the PDF. I just turned to page 4 in the PDF. If you're looking in the actual Igros, it's page 4. Actually, it's page 4 in both. This letter is letter Gimel Tov Tov Tes. That's 3,809. And in Cheluk Yud Beis. Oh, the PDF here is for the previous letter? Oh, I didn't put the right PDF. Hold on. I'm so sorry. So hold on a second. I'll get you the right PDF. Thank you for calling that out. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to soulwords.org/letters5786. And I'm going to go to PDF of letter 15. Boom, right there. Okay. And I'm going to put the link in the chat. Just put the link in the chat. And plus, I'm going to change it right now in Impact on Youth. Okay. That was an ad. All right. Hold on. We have fun over here. We're just doing everything live. Why not? It's okay. Nobody minds, right? Yeah, I see it. It was letter 14 in the PDF. Sorry. Here's letter 15. All right, I just updated it. It's updated. Sorry for that. Thank you for asking about that. Okay. So, at any rate, you get it? No pun intended. So, you should sow your seed in the morning, sow your seed at night. And, you never know which one's going to prosper. Yeah. Now, follow the nuance here. Follow the nuance. Because remember, before I was kind of complaining when I was on my soapbox momentarily. I was saying people, well, in general, people oversimplify. In general, people gravitate toward extremes. And they lack subtlety. That's just a general weakness of human beings. But especially when you learn Chassidus, I mean, Torah in general, but Chassidus especially will train your mind to think in a more refined way. Because you're forced to deal with paradox when you learn Torah. And paradox stretches your brain, teaches you how to think in a more nuanced way. At any rate, so the Rebbe says now, back on the other hand, because the Rebbe's pumping this guy up right now and saying, like, listen, even when you have a huge setback like Rabbi Akiva, you got to just keep pounding and you're going to be successful eventually. Don't worry, just keep going. Don't be discouraged. Now, the Rebbe says, on the other hand, okay, because there is nuance here, it should make you feel bitter. Miridas is bitter, right? Like Morar from the Seder. Pesach is coming up. Do you know what the lion's favorite part of the Seder was? You got to get... Oh, hold on a second. Sorry, that was early. Do you know what the lion's favorite part of the Seder was? He got to have more roar. I'm waiting for all the laughter to finish. Okay, guys, it wasn't that funny. Okay. All right. Keep it down. Come on. Talk to the live audience here. We have a live audience here. Right here. They're cracking up. You can't hear them. They're behind soundproof glass, but they're cracking up. Guys, enough. Okay. Wasn't that good. All right. The cow's favorite tefillah? Boo stuff. Okay, guys, please. We're learning. All right. So, yes, it should arouse in you a feeling of meritos. Should feel bitter. Obviously, you're looking at these kids and it's tragic. It's heartbreaking. Like, they're influenced by the secular world around them. And it is upsetting. Yeah, I mean, we're not pretending it's not upsetting. Every single one of them who is led astray from the straight path, from the path of Torah and mitzvah, obviously that's very upsetting. Even if, says the Rebbe, that they're only led astray for a limited time, and even if it's only in minor matters, meaning maybe they're not totally irreligious, but they're kind of lax in certain areas. That's a tragedy. Even if they're only led astray for a limited amount of time and only in limited areas, that's still heartbreaking. Yes, we acknowledge that. Because every moment is precious. And every single act has huge value. So yes, it is frustrating any amount of deviation from the straight path. Of course it is. And look, it's heartbreaking for anyone. I'm using the word heartbreaking. The Rebbe uses the word meritus. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for anyone who's aware of this. How much more so for the teacher? Obviously, the teacher is up close. He's invested. He sees it. He put in all this work. Yes, it will be upsetting. It creates a feeling of bitterness. Sure. But the conclusion that this bitterness should bring you to is that you should add more strength than what you did before. Okay? So it shouldn't discourage you to walk away from the project, God forbid, but the frustration, the bitterness, and Tanya explains this at length, the difference between mirirus and atzvus. The atzvus, depression, melancholy, that leads to defeat. Mirirus, frustration, bitterness, that motivates you. Okay, so yeah, it is very frustrating, but the response, the conclusion that Rebbe calls it, should be to put in even more work. Leshapra, lashlima, to improve, to perfect. Variklal kololu, ein lechodavara emid b'fnei haratzin. And there's a rule that was established that nothing stands in the way of will. That doesn't just mean new students, and I think what the Rebbe means here is, in the Rebbe Kiva example, he lost those first 24,000 students, God forbid, and his success was only with the new students. So the Rebbe says here that the frustration we feel should make us put in more work to have more success, and not just with new students, even those where the current students that we're not seeing that we're having an effect on them, that it's concealed how we're having an effect on them, but we should be roused to put in even more work with them. So the Rebbe acknowledges the frustration. Yes, certainly very frustrating. Let that spur you on to work even harder, not this discouraged feeling that you were conveying to me. Okay. Okay, you also have to recognize that the way of compromise is not at all successful. Okay, I don't know if this is something that the person writing the letter brought up or not, but this is something that Rebbe speaks about often in letters, in sichas, the idea of compromise. That many people seek to modify Yiddishkeit to make it more attainable. And this is another, by the way, okay, so I was talking about before, people misunderstand or misrepresent the Rebbe's attitude towards whether you should be satisfied or not satisfied with your work, and but by oversimplifying it. So we saw here what I call, again, Exhibit A of how the Rebbe shows there's a more nuanced approach to it, that you can be frustrated and you can be motivated. It's a paradox, but it's not a contradiction. Now let's deal with another thing. How much should we, when we're dealing with people who seemingly are not receptive to Yiddishkeit, like this guy is saying, these youth are, I'm not having an effect on them. How much should we modify the expectations, the standards? Classic question. Okay, let's find out what the Rebbe himself teaches us about this. Okay, the way of compromise will not succeed. I love this right here. It will be yichud bein hanoyer, especially among the youth. The Rebbe doesn't say this so explicitly here, but in many other places, the Rebbe speaks about the exuberance of youth, the passion of youth, in some ways like the craziness of youth. And that when you try to compromise in order to make things more palatable, it really actually turns them off, because the youth crave intensity. So especially among the youth, to compromise, ki tainosim pshuta. Their argument is very, very simple and plain to understand. She'im afshar lases pshata l'shlish l'reviyah. If you can compromise a third of the way or a quarter of the way, afshar gam kein lagdila v'lases pshata l'machzal l'yeser. So why not go halfway or even more than halfway? Maybe compromise 90% of it, maybe 99% of it. Maybe in the end you'll just give it all up. God forbid. V'oidzais. Asher ima davar sevel pshatas. Here's another point. That if the matter can bear any degree of compromise, it's that itself is proof that the thing isn't true. It's not true. Because the way of falsehood is many. There's a lot of lies. There are a lot of things that are false. But truth is one way. It's one. So if you're ready to compromise it all, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, moral relativism, it's all good. Why not? We just want you to be happy and comfortable. Then clearly we're not talking about truth, because if it were truth, then it would be one, meaning it would be what it is, and it doesn't change. Now, the Rebbe acknowledges the reality. Although we see for ourselves, you cannot instantaneously transform a person to become an Adam Shalem, to be a perfect person. Okay, so now let's deal with the reality. This is so important to understand this nuance. On one hand, we cannot make any compromises. Zero. Once you start compromising, A, you don't know when it's going to end. B, you already just lost because you signaled that this is not truth. If you're compromising one iota, you're already signaling that the thing is not true. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, we know the reality. You can't just transform a person overnight. Let's say, I don't know for sure, but let's say this guy is working with youth who come from irreligious homes. What, you want them to become completely Shemer Torah mitzvahs overnight? We know that's not going to happen. Okay, so then let's talk about it. The only way they're going to change is gradual, and to go from the light to the heavy. But while we're working with them, we need to explain something. That the things that we're demanding of them, like let's say we say to them, okay, listen, you don't have to daven, just say Moida Ani. Okay, I'm just making up examples. The Rebbe doesn't say these examples here, but I'm saying, let's say that you're dealing with someone completely, davening is not part of his life. So you don't tell him, okay, start davening Shachris. Or maybe you tell someone, okay, just put on tefillin and say Shema. That's it. Or you tell him, okay, you know what? Just make Kiddush Friday night. Don't worry about keeping Shabbos. Or you tell a girl, light Shabbos candles. That's it. Just light the candles. We don't have to talk about Shmira Shabbos yet. So the thing that we're demanding of you right now, the thing that you're telling, okay, just do this part. You have to explain to them, Ein hakoil heim, ve'einem amatzim es hashlemus. That's not the whole thing. Because every individual is obligated in all 613 mitzvahs. Okay, do you understand here the nuance here? We're not chas v'shalom lowering the standards of Yiddishkeit. The standards of Yiddishkeit are all 613 commandments. Behider. It's just that we understand that the nature of the way a person changes is gradual, and that you have to work up from easier things to harder things. But you have to be transparent about that method when you're working with the mushpa, the person you're working with. You have to tell them, look, just do this. I'm not saying that all you ever have to do is this. I'm not saying this is all Torah expects. I'm not saying that Torah has lowered its standards, chas v'shalom. What I'm saying is this is a process, and in your process, here's where you're up to. Obviously, the standards are everything. You do everything. You do all the mitzvahs. But that's not where you're up to personally yet at this point. All right, so transparency, you explain it. It's just that considering your situation, you tell this to the person. Maschilim itai be'inyan pleni upleni. We're just starting with you on a particular thing. We're telling you start with this thing, pleni upleni. The Rebbe calls it, this or that thing. Because you're not able right now to receive it all at once. So very, very simple. You don't tell a person that all Torah expects of you is Maidani. You tell them, of course, Torah expects Shachas Min Chamayrev, and to daven Mila b'Mila, and to daven Mesinos. Yes, but you know what? Let's start with Maidani. The Eidzais. Furthermore, Asher ein ha'emes sevel shnius. Shnius, it's a noun. It's a shem davar. Truth does not tolerate duplicity, double standards, I think we might say in English. How'd they translate it here? Duality? Okay. Yeah, double standards. I love this. Now, our nation, the Jewish people, are called Goy Echad Ba'aretz, one nation on earth, which means a unique nation. Also, Chassidus explains the nation that brings Echad, the oneness of Hashem, into Aretz, into the physical plane. But here the Rebbe says, we are a nation of oneness. Oneness, the Rebbe is going to explain, means the simplicity of we have a Torah and it has rules, and those rules are universal and timeless and applicable to all Jews, without exception. That's what the echad here means. So we don't tolerate shnius. We don't tolerate saying, well, there's this kind of Yiddishkeit and that kind of Yiddishkeit, and those people, their level only requires to do this much, and those people say you're only required to do that much. No. The expectations, meaning in the ideal sense, are universal. Okay? It's just that practically we know that you're not there yet. But that doesn't mean that, God forbid, we're pretending that those rules don't exist, and that they're not the ideal, and that they're not the goal, and that you're not obligated for it. The Rambam talks about, we're learning Hilchas Shabbos right now in 3 Prakim Rambam a day, which I encourage everybody, if you're enjoying learning Igros and getting closer to the Rebbe, learning Rambam every day will bring you closer to the Rebbe, and learning 3 Prakim especially. Anyways, the Rambam talks about, not here in Hilchos Shabbos, actually, I think it might be, I think it's in Carbonis, but that if a person wakes up one day and finds out what Shabbos is, and for years, his whole life, he was Oiver, so he's still going to be Chayev Chatas. He's going to have to bring a sin offering on the malachas that he did. Okay, I mean, we're not going to be mean to the guy. He didn't know, but still, he's Jewish. he was in violation. So the point is, even if a person doesn't know, or he's a Tinnik Shenishba, he doesn't, he wasn't raised with it, he's still bound by the same law that binds every Yid. It's just practically there has to be a process to get him up to that level. Okay, all right. So we are called Gei Echad Ba'aretz. The Jewish people are one nation on earth. So the concept of duality, of having to not respect the oneness of Torah, that's totally foreign to us. Even if it's received, meaning even if it's popular for a while, for whatever reason, this, the watered down version is popular for a while, it doesn't work. Ultimately, the Jewish people can't live with it. Just like we only have one God, we only have one Torah. Asher Kadeshahi, and that Torah is holy. Just like the first commandment of the 10 Commandments says, I am the Lord your God, which means one God. So to every other word and letter in Torah from beginning to end, it all communicates the idea of oneness. Not just I am the one God, but every word and letter in Torah communicates the idea of oneness. Ve'ein lisyara asher hanoya lo yikabel zeh. Don't be afraid that the youth won't accept it. Ki yirayim b'mochash asahefech. We see the opposite. Asher dafka emes agolayu b'li psharis miskabel etzlam. It is specifically revealed truth without compromise that the youth will receive. Av shebechayeyam amaisim adayin lo higiu lemedrega la'amed b'chol nisyenis hanifgoshim b'chaya adam. Even if in their day-to-day life they're not yet able to withstand all of the tests, the trials of life. Such an interesting concept. Meaning to say, if you present Torah as a truth that is not able to be compromised, not that we're demanding you to do it all at once, but we're telling you these are the expectations. These are the ideals. These are the goals. They may not follow it because it's an assignment for them. It's just too hard. It's just too hard for them to do it right now. But they will accept it. You understand the difference? They will know that it's true. And they will know, at least, I'm adding a little bit here, so this is just my commentary, but that Afshar in parentheses. But the Rebbe says like this: it may be that you have the Metzias, you have the reality of someone who's not keeping everything. Because why? They're just not strong enough right now to deal with it. Fine, okay, that's the reality. But at least they know that what they're doing is not what they're supposed to be doing. They know what Torah demands of them. And that is clear to them, because it was presented clearly to them. Okay, great. Hanakuda hatichenes mikol harichas amurahi, and the central point of all this lengthy exposition is asher al kol. That's the end of page 5. Go to page 6. Al kol achar v'achas mebale ashba b'yichud b'stei achinech hakosher. It is incumbent on everyone who has an influence, especially educators, to stand up toward the work with all of their might, with all of their ability in this holy avodah. Now, just as it is forbidden to give up on even the weakest student, it is forbidden, the Rebbe says, to give up on the work, this heavenly work. If you see a lack of success. Wow! Did you follow that? That is so poignant. That is so poignant. Let me just say it again slowly. That is so poignant. Right, I'm backing up. Just like you're not allowed to give up on even the weakest student. Could you look this kid in the face and tell him, you know what, you're hopeless, I'm sorry. No, I can't. You're unteachable. God forbid, right? Right? You would never do that. You would never do that, even the weakest student. So watch this. It's just as forbidden for you to quit. See, when you quit, you don't think of it that way. You think you quit. No, it's not you, it's me, right? The famous excuse. It's not you, it's me. You would never look a kid, even the weakest student, you would never look him in the eye and say, you are unteachable. Okay? And yet, somehow, you feel the permission. I guess you depersonalize it. You're not thinking about the students. You just think about yourself. Maybe it's a little bit of self-obsession. I'm inferior. I'm not good. I'm wasting my time. Checking out. Well, the end result is the same. You just abandoned your students. And you would never do that. You would never abandon an actual student. But by removing yourself from this work, what do you think you're doing? You're abandoning your students. So poignant. So poignant. In the end, words from the heart enter the heart. And in due time, yira pri toiv ba'amala, you will see good fruits from your labor. just beautiful. The way that Rebbe expresses it, so beautiful. Now, it's understood that if in all matters a person needs heavenly assistance, we always need Hashem's help. So much more so in chinuch, we need Hashem's help. That there are certain forces that oppose Hashem and His Torah. They use all types of means to fight against Torah and Hashem. So how are you going to get more divine assistance? Because you're going to sure need it. The secret is working on yourself, your spiritual level. We're talking about literally the way you live your day-to-day life. In a way that's fitting to our living Torah and its mitzvahs. And that's not a contradiction to working with others. Working on yourself is not a contradiction to working with others. To the contrary, one helps the other. We see that concept a lot in the Rebbe's Torah. The idea of working on yourself helps you to work on others. Working with others helps you to work on yourself. It's a virtuous circle. I don't have to elaborate. Okay. I will be very happy if you'll write me a letter letting me know that you're continuing your work after you receive this letter from the Rebbe. How could you not? I'll be very happy to receive a letter from you that you're continuing your work to influence in the proper way in your circle, in your surroundings. In the spirit of Yisro Saba, mean authentic Jewish education, tradition, with ever-growing energy. V'tikvasi chazaka, asher ka'av meshech zman le'orach, yuchal avasa gam kein shenirim peiris ba'avedasei. And I strongly hope that before long, you'll be able to report that you see fruits to your labor. Remember, we said before, you may not see them because especially with youth, it's time release. You're investing, and they may not really exhibit any of the change until they grow up and they're raising their own families. But the Rebbe gives them a bracha that you should start seeing it now. Yeah. Okay. Remember, this letter's from Tishrei. And by the way, I just want to say something. I'm sorry, I know we're over an hour already. We're at the hour point. The Lubavitcher Rebbe was extremely busy. We all know that. In Tishrei, the Rebbe was even busier. I'm not trying to say I understand how a Rebbe spends his time or what kind of effort it takes, but I'm just saying from things that are observable that we know about the Rebbe's schedule, meaning the Rebbe's comings and goings, which were observable and documented, and the Rebbe's daily schedule. Think about how incredibly occupied, and I'm not even talking about the spiritual stuff, like what the Rebbe is accomplishing in Rosh Hashanah, and the Rebbe's davening, the Rebbe's tekiyas. I'm not talking about any of that stuff, which I have no conception of. I'm just saying simple, the schedule, the comings and going that everyone can see, that's documented, and it's Daled Tishrei, it's Seres Yemei Tshuva, and the Rebbe is taking time to write to this teacher who's feeling discouraged. And it's not a short letter, it's a long letter. So, B'mei Tchilas Shana Zu, at the beginning of the year, I would like to wish you the traditional blessing, Shana Teva Masuka, a good, sweet year. a year of success in your personal matters, v'atzlocha. B'kivan arot b'avedasa b'inyanim haklalim, also success going in the right direction in your communal affairs. V'tedasi amura mereish, I thank you in advance. Im yimser ichulai Eila, if you will convey my wishes, mushpov v'talmidov, to your students, v'yichod la'elu asher bikro itai imai, especially those who visited with you. I'm assuming that this teacher brought some students to the Rebbe for Tishrei. I don't know if it was Tishrei, maybe it was Slichas, maybe it was earlier, I don't know. Maybe it was even way before. But the Rebbe says, I want you to convey to your students, all of your students, my wishes, but especially those that came with you to visit, meaning to 770. So you see here, the Rebbe is empowering this teacher, not only with the clarity, the light that is shining off of this letter, but with also the greatest empowerment that the Rebbe can give of Shliach Shel Adam K'maisai. The Rebbe tells the teacher, can you understand what's happening here? The Rebbe is telling the teacher, I want you to convey to your students my wishes. The Rebbe's Lashon HaTeva Masukah. The Rebbe is giving to this teacher the Rebbe's Shana Teva Masukah to turn around and give to his students, which will obviously have a profound impact on these students. Bivracha, with blessing. That's the end of the letter. Amazing letter. Profoundly moving letter. All the letters are profoundly moving. Sometimes we're kalim for it, sometimes not. But this one, yeah, definitely blows me away. Okay. Good We'll see you tomorrow night. Point of no return.